For most of human history, we've pictured the afterlife as a destination on a cosmic map. You die, you face judgment, and you are sent to a pre-built, static location with fixed borders, a definitive heaven or a definitive hell. But when consciousness researcher Robert Monroe and his team of explorers began mapping out-of-body states, they found a completely different architecture. People were not arriving at a universal, objective endpoint. Instead, souls were landing in highly specific, fragmented environments. One person might find a literal reincarnation hall, another a fiery purgatory, and someone else a doctrinal paradise that perfectly mirrored their earthly religious expectations. Monroe called these environments belief system territories. They are not physical places. They are shared psychic ecosystems, generated entirely by the focused attention and emotional investment of the minds inhabiting them. When enough beings agree on the rules of reality, what God is like, what happens after death, who belongs and who is punished, those agreements lock in. Their shared focus literally constructs and stabilizes the environment around them. A heaven or a purgatory is a thought-created ecosystem. It is a psychic country whose laws are written and enforced entirely by what its inhabitants collectively hold to be true. If consciousness can build entire worlds after death, we have to look at what happens when millions of living minds focus their attention on the exact same ideas over generations right here on Earth. Raw details what happens when a belief system territory matures into an egregore. This massive structure is fueled by devotion and fear. It operates as a living thought form in a continuous loop, feeding on followers' emotional investment and projecting reality back down to them. The most prominent historical example is the Abrahamic triad, the vast planetary field generated by Judaism, Christianity, and Islam in their institutional forms. What began thousands of years ago as authentic, individual encounters with the infinite slowly crystallized. Those original spiritual sparks hardened into a massive institutional vessel that billions of souls now navigate every single day. An individual mind builds a personal reality, but a collective consciousness builds an entire empire, one so deeply rooted it feels objectively true. This planetary egregore is not inherently malicious. It operates with a complex duality that demands a careful, objective look. At its core, the field preserves a genuine flame. It maintains language for the creator and the call to love one's neighbor, inspiring countless acts of service, forgiveness, and deep devotion. For many seekers, this institutional framework functions exactly as intended. It is a viable, positive territory to begin their journey and develop compassion. To maintain this massive vessel, the egregore must centralize spiritual authority. The structure develops a thick outer barrier, mutating into a rigid gatekeeper. It applies downward pressure, punishing deep questioning that threatens conformity, placing a hard cap on personal growth. The structure captures the raw human impulse to seek the divine, but ultimately channels it into strict conformity. It becomes a spiritual enclosure for anyone pushing past its sanctioned borders. Both Monroe's explorers and the Law of One arrive at the exact same conclusion. No belief system territory, regardless of its planetary scale or ancient history, represents ultimate reality. These grand religious structures function like heavy, dense scaffolding. They are highly effective for building an initial foundation, but they are temporary. Eventually, the framework is meant to be discarded. Sooner or later, every soul that has been nourished, limited, or wounded inside these walls develops a hunger for something else. They seek direct, unmediated union with the infinite, without the middleman. We do not need to demonize these massive historical fields, and we certainly do not need to pretend their distortions are harmless. Instead, a seeker can evaluate their place within any religious, spiritual, or ideological framework by applying a very specific test. Ask yourself, does my participation in this system actively increase my personal love, wisdom, and sovereignty? Or does it subtly diminish those qualities to serve the demands of the group mind? True sovereignty is knowing when to stay and knowing when to step beyond the territory, because the infinite you are looking for was never confined to the walls of a world built by human minds.